أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم على الآدل البشير نذير محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وعلى كل من استنى بسنته إلى يوم البعث. إخوة الإيمان فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Respected listeners and audience across the globe, you are welcome to today's episode of Important Foundational Principles for Muslim Children and Muslims generally. Bismillah ta'ala, today shall be another interesting minutes together discussing what's some basic understanding, some basic requirements which we are expected to know, some basic knowledge required of Muslims to be aware of, and likewise to carry our children along on this understanding. As we are all familiar with in our different areas of expertise, let me say our different careers of calling, we are always, there are terminologies and definitions to some terminology. There are definitions to some terminologies peculiar to our career. Likewise, even our children that are expected also to be part of this program with us wherever we are viewing it, most of them, they have attained a particular age in their learning whereby certain definitions will be called to them, they will be taught definition of some terms that are central to the subject matter. They will want them to understand the definition of certain terminologies. So it should not be now strange to us today to be discussing Ta'riful Islam. So what should be the definition of Islam? Or let me say, how has Islam been defined by scholars of the religion? How does the Holy Quran define Al-Islam? How did Allah's Messenger ﷺ define Al-Islam? So from the two sources, what has been the deductions to arrive at the definition of Al-Islam? Al-Islam, فَإِذَا قِيلَ لَكَ مَا تَعْرِيفُ الْإِسْلَامِ. So when you are asked, what is the definition of Al-Islam? فَقُولْ, then respond by saying, Al-Islam huwa al-istislamu lillahi bit-tawhid. It is submission to Allah with monotheism. Submission to Allah by being ready to unify Him as a single deity, worthy of our subservience and worship. Bitawheed, that La ilaha illallah. We had presented the definition of Kalimat al-Tawheed in earlier episodes. Yes. Likewise, wal-inqiyadu lah bit-ta'a, and the readiness to obey Allah, to obey His commandments, wal-khulusu min ash-shirki, and the readiness to abstain, to refrain from whatever form of idolatry and worship of multiple gods in every form, in our ideologies, because it is not until you go to a shrine that one commits shirk. These are things we are still going to mention in subsequent episodes. There are ideologies that there are shirk, there are idolatry, there are paganism that could emanate from our ideology. from the ideology with which we are relating with Allah, there are certain forms of idolatry and paganism that could be buried within it. That is why this definition goes the way we have defined it, and our evidence for that is very many and abundant in Allah's book and the Sunnah of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah says in Surah Al-Hajj, Quran chapter 22, verse 34, Allah says, فَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ, and your Lord and your Allah, ilahukum, the deity, the being that deserves your worship. This time around is not Rabbu, it's not Lord. The being, the deity that deserves your worship is Allah. Wahidun, and is one God. Is solitary, it's just one person. As for aslimu wahidu falahu aslimu, and to him you should submit. Wabashir li mukhbitin, and give glad tidings to the obedient ones. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, that says in Surah Al-Imran, Quran chapter 3, verse 102, that says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. O you who claim to believe, who have subscribed to the belief in La ilaha illallah, اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ, be mindful of the commandments and the prohibitions of Allah. Be conscious and cautious of Allah. وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, and strive, give it whatever it takes and requires to ensure that you do not die except in the state of submitting to the Lord, to the Allah in whom you believe. Brothers and sisters, respected audience and viewers, this definition of Islam, al-Islam, requires from us beyond the identity, beyond the physical identity, beyond the identity of a Muslim confined on us by virtue of our nomenclature, by virtue of our name. All these things are not sufficient. They are not sufficient. The definition of al-Islam, as just presented to us, requires from us to be, throughout our life, true believers in the oneness of Allah. And in all our harakat and sakanat, in all our actions and inactions, they should forever and every time translate to La ilaha illallah. In times of need, we should know that the single Lord, the single one Allah that we are worshiping is sufficient for us, and is the one that places us in the condition of opulence and comfort that we are. And in times of need, we should know that He is sufficient for us. The kind of Islam required by this definition does not give room for remaining in Islam when things are rosy and running somewhere else to seek succor and financial support and spiritual support when things are tight. No, that's not the type of Islam defined here. Our Islam also requires that, come what may, we should be ready to comply with the rules and regulations that comes in the same book where we met our belief. The rules, the commandments contained in the same source of our La ilaha illallah, we should be ready to comply.